I am Margaret, 32 years old and the CEO of Celestial Gems. My relationship with my younger brother Nathan has always been a bit complicated. So, when I received a text from him saying he borrowed my inexpensive necklace for his date, I initially smiled until I realized which necklace he was referring to. The one valued at $1 million. The limited edition sapphire that was set to be featured in our VIP showcase tomorrow. My heart dropped as I called security with steady hands but racing thoughts. If you are watching this right now, please drop a comment to let me know where you are from. Hit that like button and subscribe to join me on this journey of how a family bond was tested by a $1 million mistake. Celestial Gems did not become a luxury jewelry brand overnight. It took me 10 years of relentless effort, starting from a small boutique in downtown Manhattan to our current headquarters, which spans the entire 40th floor of a glass tower overlooking Central Park. The floor-to-ceiling windows in my corner office frame the city skyline, serving as a daily reminder of how far I have come from designing simple pendants at my kitchen table. Now, I oversee more than 200 employees and assets worth millions. The sapphire necklace that Nathan casually borrowed was the centerpiece of our upcoming Azure collection. It features 15 carats of the rarest royal blue sapphire from Kashmir, surrounded by 36 diamonds in a platinum setting that took our master craftsman Lucas 3 months to perfect. We had insurance, of course, but this piece was irreplaceable in terms of craftsmanship and prestige. It was scheduled to be the highlight of our presentation to potential investors in the Asian market the following day. Our standard security protocol would never permit such a valuable piece to leave the premises without armed guards and tracking devices. Every item valued over $100,000 requires 2 executive signatures, biometric verification, and a security escort for transport. However, I had taken it home last night to personally review the entire collection one last time before the showcase. It was an unusual violation of protocol that I had convinced myself was a necessary commitment to excellence. My stylish penthouse apartment typically acts as my refuge from work-related stress. With minimalist furnishings in soft hues, abstract artwork adorning the walls, and a balcony garden where I cultivate herbs and flowers to clear my thoughts. However, recently, the distinction between home and workplace had dangerously faded. Emails at midnight, conference calls during breakfast, and now company assets casually resting on my vanity while I reviewed marketing materials until 2 a.m. Nathan relocated to New York 3 years ago, ostensibly to chase an acting career, but mostly he was cycling through a series of service jobs and crashing on friends' couches. At 24, he still embodied the charming irresponsibility that our parents had always indulged. The youngest in the family, 7 years my junior, Nathan had perfected the art of the apologetic grin that somehow made his chaos seem excusable. My ex-husband Brad used to refer to it as the Nathan cycle, the frantic phone call, the loan to cover rent, the vow to be more responsible, followed by the inevitable vanishing act until the next emergency. Brad eventually grew weary of it, adding Nathan to the extensive list of reasons why our marriage fell apart after just 3 years. The divorce was finalized 18 months ago, yet his warnings about my brother still resonated. You cannot rescue someone who revels in drowning. Nevertheless, Nathan was family. When he appeared at my door 6 months ago, fresh from a breakup and another job loss, I handed him my spare key and told him he could stay in the guest room until he got back on his feet. It was meant to be a temporary arrangement, but Nathan had a knack for making temporary feel permanent. He came and went at strange hours, sometimes vanishing for days, but always returned with elaborate tales and that disarming smile. I had repeatedly cautioned him not to touch anything work-related in the apartment. The spare bedroom where he stayed was located at the far end of the hallway from my home office, establishing what I believed to be a distinct separation between my personal and work environments. There had been a few minor issues, like a missing laptop charger and a coffee spill on contract drafts, but nothing that warranted changing the locks on my own brother. The sapphire necklace had been safely locked in its custom case when I finally went to bed. I clearly remember placing it on my vanity table, planning for my assistant, Megan, to pick it up first thing in the morning. The case needed a key that I kept on my personal keychain, which indicated that Nathan must have discovered the key in my purse while I was showering this morning. Another boundary crossed, as if it were merely an inconvenient suggestion. I had been preoccupied during my morning routine, mentally going over my presentation while applying makeup and replying to early emails. In my haste to reach the office for an 8 o'clock strategy meeting, I neglected to ensure that the necklace was secure before leaving. A significant error that would cost me more than I could have anticipated. On my vanity table now lay an empty jewelry case, its velvet interior perfectly shaped to fit the missing necklace. Beside it was a hastily written note in Nathan's untidy handwriting. Borrowed your blue necklace for tonight. Looks expensive, but I know it's costume jewelry. Will return tomorrow. Thanks, sis. The assumption that anything I owned could be costume jewelry was so typically Nathan. Even after visiting my office and seeing press coverage of Celestial Gems gaining traction in the luxury market, he still somehow perceived my career as an elaborate game rather than the serious business it truly was. This disconnect had been annoying before. Now it was potentially disastrous. I reflected on all the times I had covered for Nathan with our parents. The rent checks I had discreetly paid when he was short. The vehicle I assisted him in financing, believing that dependable transportation would change his life for the better. The recommendation letters I had composed for friends across different sectors, risking my own reputation to aid him in starting anew. And now, I found myself confronting the potential theft of $1 million company asset by my own sibling. The day began like any other intense morning at Celestial Gems. I reached the office by 7:30, a Starbucks venti Americano in hand, mentally preparing for my presentation on our expansion into the Asian luxury market. The conference room was already arranged, with the marketing team putting the finishing touches on slides and our financial analysts making last-minute tweaks to the forecasts. Vincent, our CFO, was engaged in a discussion about currency exchange issues with our international sales director when my phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. Borrowed your inexpensive necklace for my date. Thanks. A brief annoyance flickered within me at yet another breach of my personal space, but I quickly refocused on the presentation materials. It was only during a short bathroom break, 30 minutes before the investors were scheduled to arrive, that the weight of his message truly sank in. My hands froze under the running water as the realization dawned on me. The only necklace I had at home was the sapphire. I hurried back to my office, disregarding the worried glances from my team, and called my apartment building. The concierge confirmed that Nathan had exited the building around 10 that morning. I hung up and immediately called Nathan's number, but it went directly to voicemail. My next call was to Megan. Miss Williams, did you pick up the azure sapphire from my apartment this morning? There was a moment of silence. No, you texted me not to come by, stating you would bring it yourself for the presentation. I certainly did not send such a text. A wave of dread washed over me as I opened my messaging app and noticed a text to Megan from my phone sent at 7:15. Don't worry about picking up the necklace. I'll bring it myself. No need for you to come to the apartment. Nathan had used my phone while I was in the shower to make sure no one would find out about the missing necklace until it was too late. I shut my office door and leaned against it, attempting to steady my breathing. The sapphire necklace was not just valuable, it was irreplaceable on short notice. The investors were set to arrive in less than an hour, specifically interested in our azure collection, with the sapphire as its centerpiece. Advertising materials featuring the necklace had already been sent out. Celebrities had posed with the design mock-ups. My phone rang. It was Olivia, our head of security, asking why the sapphire hadn't gone through the usual security checks this morning. I inhaled deeply and made the toughest phone call of my career. Olivia, I need to report a security breach. The azure sapphire is missing. Her sharp intake of breath was followed by a heavy silence. This is not a drill. Correct. Number. I need to activate our theft response protocol immediately. The machinery of corporate crisis management began to operate with alarming efficiency. Within minutes, Vincent was in my office, his face pale as he talked about insurance implications. Harold, our legal counsel, arrived shortly after with a preliminary evaluation of liability issues. The investors were held up in the lobby with a story about technical difficulties in the presentation room. I want to be very clear, I said to the crisis team now gathered in my office. This is my brother. He doesn't realize what he took. He believes it's costume jewelry. Vincent took off his glasses and pinched the bridge of his nose. Margaret, with all due respect, it doesn't matter what he thinks. He took $1 million company asset without permission. The insurance company will categorize this as theft, regardless of his intent. Harold nodded solemnly. The board will need to be informed immediately. As CEO, you are responsible for the asset once it leaves secure premises. The reality that the offender is your brother only adds to the complexity of the situation. The words lingered in the atmosphere like a guillotine's blade. I understood what was left unsaid. That I had jeopardized company security for my own convenience. That my familial ties created a conflict of interest, putting my role as CEO at risk. Can we delay contacting the police? I inquired, a sense of desperation creeping into my tone. Allow me to attempt to reach him first. We have precisely 1 hour before security protocols require law enforcement involvement, Olivia remarked, glancing at her watch. Company policy is explicit. The door swung open, and Megan entered, her expression one of apology. The investors are becoming anxious, and Mr. Peterson from the board is on line 1 inquiring about the delay in the presentation. I nodded mechanically and lifted the phone. The next 30 minutes flew by in a haze of damage control. The investors were informed that a transport security issue had postponed the showcase, which would be rescheduled for the following week. Mr. Peterson received a vague explanation regarding quality control issues necessitating last-minute adjustments to the collection. Throughout this chaos, I kept attempting to reach Nathan, whose phone remained frustratingly silent. I sent texts, each one more urgent than the last. Nathan, please call me immediately. The necklace you took is not just costume jewelry. It holds significant value. Nathan, this is a company emergency. Where are you? I need that necklace back right now. With every unanswered message, my anxiety escalated. The memory of our last significant conflict resurfaced uninvited in my thoughts. Nathan had borrowed my car without my consent and ended up in a fender bender. When I confronted him, he had erupted in anger, accusing me of valuing my possessions more than his well-being. We hadn't spoken for 3 months afterward until he called on my birthday with a casual, "Hey sis, miss me," as if nothing had transpired. This time was different. This wasn't merely about Nathan and me. My company, my employees, my career were all at stake. The hour deadline loomed, feeling both agonizingly slow and alarmingly fast at the same time. After 58 minutes of silence following my call to Olivia, I made a choice that would alter our relationship forever. I instructed her to implement the full security protocol. My voice was empty as I told Olivia, "Contact law enforcement. The necklace has been stolen." With the security measures in place, Celestial Gems shifted from a luxury jewelry brand to a crime investigation hub. Olivia liaised with the NYPD while I shared Nathan's details and photo with them. Due to the high value of the stolen item, the police took the matter seriously, assigning detectives from their major theft division. However, I couldn't just sit idly by. I opened the family tracking app that we had all installed after Nathan had gone missing for a week last year following a bad breakup. He had either forgotten to turn it off or never checked if it was still active. The blue dot indicating his location was moving along 5th Avenue before stopping at what seemed to be La Cirque, one of the city's priciest restaurants. Naturally, Nathan wouldn't spend like that on his bartender's salary. He was clearly trying to impress someone with both the upscale dining and my sapphire necklace. I checked his Instagram, which he had neglected to set to private despite my constant reminders about digital privacy. His story updates from the past week included selfies with a gorgeous blonde woman tagged as Vanessa Carlton, 98. A quick look at her profile revealed she was indeed Vanessa Carlton, the daughter of real estate tycoon Frederick Carlton. Her posts displayed a lifestyle filled with private jets, champagne brunches, and casual snapshots taken in homes resembling museum exhibits. Nathan was involved with someone from the social elite. Suddenly, his desperate need to impress made a twisted sort of sense. He had always been attracted to individuals who embodied the status and recognition he longed for. And now, he was using my necklace, the necklace from my company, to project an image of greater success than he actually had. I sent the location details to Olivia and the police. Considering the item's worth, they quickly dispatched officers. I also contacted our private security team, telling them to remain discreet yet ready for any situation. Then, despite Harold and Vincent's warnings, I put on my coat and moved towards the door. I have to be there, I insisted when Harold attempted to stop me. He's my brother. This shouldn't turn into a public spectacle. The 20-minute drive to Lasark felt like the longest of my life. My phone buzzed incessantly with updates. The police had arrived. Security was in place. The restaurant manager was aware of the situation. Each notification heightened my anxiety. By the time my driver reached the curb, I could already see the chaos beginning. 2 police cars were parked outside with their lights flashing. Restaurant patrons had gathered on the sidewalk, some looking bewildered, others recording with their phones. I overheard one woman mention a bomb threat and another speculating about celebrities and paparazzi. None of them realized they were witnessing the potential downfall of both my company and my family. I pushed through the crowd, showing my ID to the officer at the entrance. Inside, the elegant dining room had been partially cleared. In the center, surrounded by officers, stood Nathan. The sapphire necklace sparkled against the black dress of the blonde woman next to him. Its blue stones seemed to capture the light like a captive ocean. "Nathan," I called, my voice breaking the tense silence. His head snapped up, eyes widening in confusion before narrowing in anger. "Margaret, what the hell is this?" The woman, Vanessa, looked between us, her perfectly manicured hand rising to touch the necklace at her throat. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice rising in alarm. A detective stepped forward. "Sir, we need you to carefully remove the necklace from the lady and place it in this security container," he instructed, holding out a padded box. Nathan let out a sharp, incredulous laugh. "This is unbelievable. That necklace belongs to my sister. It's merely costume jewelry. Sir, that necklace is a 15-carat cashmere sapphire worth around $1 million. It belongs to Celestial Gems Corporation." Vanessa's hand recoiled from the necklace as if it had scalded her. Her eyes, wide with disbelief, turned accusatorily towards Nathan. "You told me it was a family heirloom." The restaurant fell into complete silence, every patron and staff member frozen, captivated by the unfolding drama. I could almost visualize the social media updates being drafted in real time. "Wild scene at Lasser, guy arrested for stealing $1 million necklace." "Nathan," I said, striving to keep my tone steady. "You took it from my apartment this morning. You dismissed my assistant who was meant to collect it. You knew it wasn't yours to take." "I thought it was just one of your samples," he yelled, his face turning crimson. "Why would you leave something worth $1 million just lying around?" "It wasn't just lying around," I retorted. "It was secured in a locked case. A case I have the key to because I'm your brother." "Because I'm family," he shot back, or at least I believed I was. The detective stepped forward again, more assertive. "Sir, please remove the necklace now." Vanessa, regaining her composure, reached behind her neck with shaky fingers. The clasp released, and she carefully handed the sapphire to the detective, who placed it in the security container. 2 officers approached Nathan. "Jacob Williams, you are under arrest for grand larceny." The detective began to read the Miranda rights as an officer produced handcuffs. "This is a mistake," Nathan protested, glancing around the restaurant in panic. "Tell them, Margaret, tell them I didn't steal anything." But the words caught in my throat. By strict legal standards, he had stolen the necklace, taken it without consent, obstructed my assistant from retrieving it, and used it for his own benefit. The CEO in me recognized that pursuing charges was the appropriate corporate action. The sister within me was overwhelmed by a whirlwind of emotions. An officer grasped Nathan's arm, pivoting him to secure the handcuffs. The sharp metallic click reverberated through the quiet restaurant. As they guided him toward the exit, he turned to glance back at me. His face displayed a blend of betrayal, anger, and for a fleeting moment, fear. "I always knew that your precious company held more significance for you than family," he spat out. "Thanks for confirming my suspicions." Then he vanished, led through the throng of spectators and into a waiting police vehicle. Vanessa stood there, frozen, tears cascading down her flawless makeup. The security case containing the sapphire necklace was handed to Olivia, who had suddenly appeared beside me. The detective approached, notepad in hand, prepared to take my official statement. Yet, all I could concentrate on was the spot where Nathan had been, the weight of his accusation lingering in the atmosphere. Had I truly sacrificed my brother to protect my company? The necklace was retrieved, but at what price? A flash illuminated the area. I turned to see a man wielding a professional camera and a press badge. How did he arrive so swiftly? Another journalist followed, then another. Someone thrust a microphone in my direction. "Miss Williams, is it accurate that your brother stole $1 million necklace from your company? Was this an inside job? Did you file charges against your own brother?" The inquiries came in rapid succession as more reporters gathered, attracted by the police presence and the murmurs of a sensational scandal. Olivia gestured to our security team, who formed a protective shield around me as they guided me toward the exit. I caught one last look at Vanessa, now encircled by her friends who had been dining with them. Their expressions were a mix of concern and barely concealed thrill at being so close to such drama. Our eyes met for a brief moment before I was ushered out the door and into the waiting vehicle. As we drove away from the curb, my phone buzzed with a text from Harold about a breaking news alert already featured on page 6. The board was calling for an emergency meeting tomorrow at 8 a.m. The sapphire necklace was secure, resting in its protective case on Olivia's lap. My brother was in police custody. My company was in crisis mode, and the carefully built barrier between my personal and professional lives had just dramatically crumbled. The following morning, the story had gone viral across both traditional and social media platforms. The New York Post headlined, "CEO calls cops on brother over $1 million jewel heist." More reputable sources presented it with slightly more decorum, yet the core remained unchanged: family drama and luxury jewelry made for irresistible clickbait. The emergency board meeting turned out to be even more daunting than I had expected. I found myself at the head of the conference table, facing the serious faces of our 12 board members. Edward Montgomery, our largest investor and the most outspoken board member, rhythmically tapped his fountain pen against his leather portfolio. "The stock is down 5% this morning," he stated bluntly. "Our security measures have been publicly compromised. Our CEO has a direct family link to an alleged thief." This was exactly the type of scandal that could ruin a luxury brand founded on trust and exclusivity. I reminded them that the sapphire had been recovered and that no lasting damage had occurred. Vincent, sitting to my right, pushed a tablet toward me. The screen showed a real-time ticker of celestial gems, with the line stubbornly trending downward. "The market disagrees, Margaret," he said. The board spent the next hour analyzing every detail of the incident. Why had I taken the necklace from secure premises? Why did my brother have access to my apartment? Had I thought about the optics of having my own brother arrested? What measures were being implemented to prevent similar breaches in the future? I responded to each inquiry with as much professional composure as I could muster, but inside, I felt like I was sinking. My phone had been buzzing incessantly since dawn. My parents had called 6 times, leaving increasingly furious voicemails about how I could betray my own brother. "We expect more from you, Margaret," my mother's last message had concluded. "Nathan made a mistake, but family stands by family. You chose your friends over your brother. I don't even recognize you anymore." That stung more than anything the board could say. My parents had always taken pride in my achievements, but their support seemed to hinge on my role as Nathan's safety net. For years, I had accepted this position without question. Now that I had finally set a boundary, I was the villain in their eyes. After the board meeting, I learned that Nathan had been released on bail, thanks to our parents draining their retirement savings to post the bond. He had refused to talk to the company lawyers I had sent to the precinct. According to the court liaison, he had listed our parents' address in New Jersey as his temporary residence, not my apartment. The message was unmistakable. He wanted nothing to do with me. The week continued to spiral out of control at an alarming pace. Our major retail partners reached out with worries about security protocols for their inventory. Competitors began to circle, with one even running an advertisement showcasing their advanced security measures with the tagline, "Your luxury investments are truly secure." The Asian market investors who had been in the lobby during the initial crisis communicated through their representative that they were reconsidering the partnership, citing worries about company stability and asset management. My inbox overflowed with interview requests from fashion magazines, business publications, and tabloid shows, all eager for the inside scoop on the Williams family jewelry saga. Our PR team worked tirelessly to formulate responses and mitigate damage, but the story had taken on a life of its own. On Wednesday afternoon, I got a notification that Vanessa had shared a post about the incident on her Instagram, which boasts over 200,000 followers. Here's the truth: when someone flaunts $1 million necklace on your third date, it's time to ask some questions. I'm still reeling from the dinner disaster on Monday night. I thought I was seeing a nice guy, but it turns out I was involved with a thief who has family issues. Always listen to your gut. Ladies, this is a lesson learned. Trust issues are real. I definitely dodged a bullet. The post had already racked up thousands of likes and comments, with many tagging Nathan and Celestial Gems. Some savvy internet detectives had pieced together the story, sharing links to company profiles and speculating about the family dynamics involved. The court of public opinion was in full swing, and no one was coming out unscathed. By Thursday, I could sense whispers among the staff as I walked through the office. Nothing overt, just conversations that would abruptly stop. When I approached, I noticed sympathetic glances quickly turning away. The company-wide email I sent out, explaining the situation in professional terms, did little to stop the gossip. How could it? The human drama was far more captivating than corporate security protocols. The final blow came on Friday morning when I found out that the VIP showcase had been officially canceled, not just postponed. 3 out of our 5 major clients had withdrawn, citing scheduling conflicts that I knew were just polite excuses. The Azure collection, our most ambitious and costly line to date, was now in limbo, its signature piece marred by scandal before it even launched. That evening, I sat alone in my office, long after everyone else had left. The sapphire necklace, now safely back in our vault, had been cleared as evidence since Nathan wasn't contesting that he had taken it. The police investigation was still ongoing, but it had lost its urgency now that the item was recovered. As I browsed through old pictures on my phone, I came across one of Nathan and me at my company launch party 5 years ago, his arm casually draped over my shoulders as we both beamed at the camera. There was Nathan helping me move into this very office, playfully donning my executive nameplate as a necklace to lighten my mood when I was feeling the weight of responsibility. Nathan at family Christmas gatherings was always the life of the party, the one who could make everyone laugh. Had I overreacted? That question nagged at me. Perhaps I could have handled things differently. I could have sent security alone to discreetly retrieve the necklace, keeping it away from the police and the media. But what message would that send? That company rules didn't apply if you were the CEO's brother? That $1 million theft was excusable if you claimed ignorance? My phone rang, shattering the silence. An unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something compelled me to answer. Margaret Williams. A woman cleared her throat. Miss Williams, this is Vanessa Carlton. My grip on the phone tightened. How did you get this number? Does it matter? She replied, her tone tense. I just thought you should know that Nathan reached out to me today. He wants to meet to share his side of the story. I haven't decided if I will. I shut my eyes, feeling suddenly drained. Why are you telling me this? Because, she said, pausing, he's been saying some things about you and the company, suggesting there are other issues beyond this necklace incident that you've been covering for him for years. I thought you should know he's talking. The implication lingered heavily. Nathan was angry, hurt, and seeking revenge, armed with information that could inflict even more harm on both me and Celestial Gems. Thank you for the heads up, I finally said. I didn't do it for you, she shot back coldly. I did it because no one deserves to be blindsided. Not even you. The call ended abruptly. I set my phone down on the desk with the screen facing down and gazed out at the twinkling city lights, aware that my brother was out there somewhere, scheming his next move. This time, he wasn't seeking forgiveness, he was after revenge. After a week of silence, I realized I couldn't hold off any longer for Nathan to act. On Sunday morning, I drove to his new apartment in Brooklyn, a walk up in a neighborhood still undergoing gentrification. Our parents had co-signed the lease after he refused to come back to my place. I knocked 3 times before he finally opened the door. Nathan looked awful, with dark circles under his eyes, unwashed hair, and wearing the same Knicks t-shirt I had seen him in countless times during hungover mornings at my place. The apartment behind him was sparsely furnished, with moving boxes still piled against the wall. What do you want? He asked, not budging to let me in. We need to talk, Nathan. Now you want to talk? He laughed bitterly. A little late, don't you think? After you had me arrested in front of the entire restaurant, after you humiliated me in front of Vanessa. I kept my voice steady. Are you going to make me have this conversation in the hallway? He hesitated, then stepped aside with exaggerated politeness. Welcome to my humble abode. Not quite your penthouse, but then again, I don't have $1 million jewelry lying around. The apartment was small but had the potential to be nice with some effort. Instead, it looked like Nathan had been camping rather than living there. Empty takeout containers on the coffee table, clothes draped over unpacked boxes, and a makeshift bed of sheets and blankets on a mattress on the floor. I took a seat on the only chair, a wooden one with a wobbly leg. Nathan stood with his arms crossed defensively over his chest. I came to understand why and simply asked, why did you take the necklace? Why did you lie about it? Isn't it obvious? He snapped. I needed to impress Vanessa. I thought it was just some sample, something you'd never miss. I had no idea it was worth that much. I think there's more to it than that. His eyes slid away from mine. What do you mean? Vanessa reached out to me. I mentioned that she said you've been discussing me regarding the company. She seemed to believe you had some sort of grudge. That caught his attention. His body language became tense. So what if I do? You had me arrested, Margaret, in front of everyone. Do you even realize what that felt like? I can't even begin to imagine, I confessed. But I still can't grasp why you took the necklace in the first place. You know how crucial my work is. You know better than to touch my belongings without permission. Nathan began to pace the cramped room, running his fingers through his hair in frustration. You really want to know why? Seriously? Because for once in my life, I wanted to be the one who impresses. Do you understand what it's like being your brother? Margaret the genius. Margaret the CEO. Margaret who built $1 million company from nothing. His voice escalated with each point. Years of pent-up resentment surfacing. I just wanted Vanessa to see me the way people see you. With respect, with admiration, just once. The intensity of his confession struck me like a physical blow. All these years, I thought I was aiding him, supporting him. I never considered that my achievements might be overshadowing him, leaving him feeling trapped. A long silence followed. Nathan collapsed onto the edge of the bed, suddenly looking drained. There's something else, he finally murmured, his voice so soft I had to lean in to catch it. I owe some people money. What kind of money? How much? He flinched. 40,000. I stared at him for a moment, speechless. Nathan, what on earth? How did this happen? Gambling, he admitted, avoiding my gaze. It started with poker nights with friends, then sports betting, and then online. I thought I could win it back, but that's the classic gambler's delusion. But this was worse than I had imagined. 40,000 wasn't just credit card debt or overdue rent. That was serious cash. Who do you owe? I asked, fearing the answer. Some guys, they aren't exactly the type to offer payment plans. They gave me until the end of the month. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. The frantic effort to win over Vanessa, whose family was wealthy. He wasn't merely seeking a girlfriend, he was in search of a financial rescuer. I came to share something else, I said softly. I know you were in discussions with Gemstone International last month. His head shot up, a look of true surprise on his face. How did you find out? Their HR department reached out to confirm your employment dates with Celestial Gems. But I never worked there during that time. His astonishment appeared sincere. Exactly. You falsified your application. You claimed to have been a consultant for us for 2 years. Gemstone International was our largest rival. Nathan's application there might have been innocent, but fabricating employment with my company crossed yet another boundary. He had the decency to look ashamed. I needed the job. They wouldn't have given a second glance to a bartender's resume. The room felt constricted, too. Each revelation added another burden to my chest. How many more secrets was he hiding? My parents always said I was the challenging one. I muttered more to myself than to Nathan, the serious one. The one who didn't know how to enjoy life. Meanwhile, they were always rushing to fix your blunders. That's not fair, he argued. Isn't it? When you wrecked Dad's car, they bought you a new one. When you dropped out of college, they called it discovering your path. When you needed cash, they provided it without hesitation. But I was always held to a different standard. Nathan looked down at the floor. You were always so flawless. You didn't require their assistance. I let out a short, bitter laugh. Flawless, Nathan? I juggled 2 jobs to finance my business education. I built my company while you were enjoying your 20s. I lent you money when you were in need. I kept it from Mom and Dad so they wouldn't worry. His head snapped up. Wait, what? The rent checks last year? The car loan? You thought that came from their retirement savings? That was me. I took care of it and told them I managed it because I didn't want them to stress about finances at their age. Nathan looked genuinely shocked. I was unaware. Naturally, you were, since you've never had to consider anyone other than yourself. The words lingered between us, harsh yet truthful. For a brief moment, I noticed a flicker of what seemed like shame pass over his face. I knew, he finally admitted. Knew what? About the necklace. For the first time, he looked me directly in the eyes. I searched for Celestial Gems the morning I took it. I saw the press release regarding the Azure collection. I recognized its worth. Not worth $1 million. But I understood it wasn't just costume jewelry. The revelation knocked the breath out of me. This wasn't a simple misunderstanding. It was a calculated move. Why, Nathan? Why would you do something like that? He shrugged, a gesture so nonchalant it made my blood boil. I thought you'd cover for me. You always do. The company has insurance, right? No real damage done. No real damage? Are you serious right now? The board is questioning my leadership. Our stock has plummeted. Partners are withdrawing from deals. My entire career is at stake. But all you care about is the company, he retorted. Heaven forbid anything jeopardizes the precious Celestial Gems empire. You know what? I'm actually relieved this happened. At least now I understand where I stand with you. Somewhere beneath the bottom line. That's not fair, and you know it. Nathan rose, anger emanating from him. What's unfair is having a sister who acts superior to everyone else, who critiques every decision I make. Who makes me feel like a failure every time I enter a room with her. I never. Yes, you do, he yelled. Every time you rescue me, every time you solve my issues, the message is unmistakable. Poor Nathan can't manage his own life. Good thing he has the successful Margaret to bail him out. I gazed at him, truly recognizing the depth of his bitterness for the first time. All these years, I thought I was being helpful. But from his viewpoint, every act of support was just another reminder of his shortcomings. I'm sorry if that's how it seemed, I said softly. That was never my aim. Yeah, well, intentions don't mean much, do they? He murmured, feeling a bit deflated. Just as I never meant to create such a colossal mess with the necklace. But here we are. Indeed, here we are. Two siblings in a bare apartment, a vast divide of misunderstanding and pain between us that felt insurmountable. So what now? He inquired. You file charges, I end up in jail, and we never talk again. I don't want that, Nathan. Then what do you want? It was a straightforward question with no easy answer. What did I desire? My business secure, my brother safe, my parents understanding, a time machine to rewind and lock that necklace in the safe where it belonged. I want us to resolve this, I finally said. But not like before. Not with me writing a check and you making promises you won't fulfill. Genuine change this time. He gazed at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. The anger seemed to ebb away, leaving only fatigue and perhaps a hint of relief. I think I need help, Margaret, he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. With the gambling, with everything. It was the first time in our adult lives I heard him admit he couldn't manage things on his own. A small step, but maybe the most crucial one. We can get you that help, I replied. But this time, there will be accountability. Real consequences for both of us. As I exited his apartment an hour later, the burden on my chest had shifted. Not lighter, exactly, but different. The way forward was uncertain, but at least now we were both recognizing the real issues instead of pretending everything was okay. My phone buzzed with a text from Vincent. Board wants an update on Nathan's situation tomorrow. What should I tell them? I replied, tell them I'll handle it personally, and I will. The following Monday, I entered the board meeting with a clear strategy and renewed determination. Instead of taking my usual position at the head of the table, I stood, commanding the attention of everyone present. Before we begin the formal agenda, I need to address the situation with my brother and the Azure Sapphire. I stated, what occurred was unacceptable, and as the CEO, I accept full personal responsibility. Edward Montgomery raised his eyebrows. That sounds like a resignation speech, Margaret. Not resignation, I corrected him. Accountability. I permitted a company asset to be taken from secure premises without following the proper protocols. That choice was solely mine, and I am ready to face the repercussions. I presented my proposal. I would personally pay the insurance deductible for the incident from my own finances. Furthermore, I would relinquish this year's executive bonus to demonstrate my commitment to the security of the company. The board members exchanged looks, clearly taken aback by my stance. Most had anticipated excuses or deflection, not straightforward accountability. Moreover, I continued, I have crafted a thorough security overhaul proposal. I handed out tablets with my presentation preloaded. For the next 30 minutes, I guided them through my plan: biometric verification for all items valued over $50,000, GPS tracking embedded in significant pieces, updated security training for all personnel, and a complete revision of the plant's home approval process for sample reviews. Vincent appeared impressed despite himself. "This addresses most of the concerns our insurance provider raised," he remarked. "What about your brother, Edward?" he asked bluntly. "The criminal charges are still pending. The company name will be dragged through court proceedings." I met his gaze steadily. "The legal situation is being handled separately. However, I want to be clear that I will not be utilizing company resources or influence to interfere with the proper legal process." It was the hardest line I ever drew regarding Nathan, but it was necessary. The days of quietly cleaning up his messes are over. The board voted unanimously to accept my proposal, although Edward cautioned that they would be keeping a close eye on the situation. As the meeting wrapped up, I experienced an unusual feeling of freedom. For the first time, I recognized my part in enabling Nathan's actions while also refusing to compromise my professional integrity to shield him. That evening, I visited my parents at their home in New Jersey. The discussion proved to be even more challenging than the board meeting. They sat rigidly on the couch, my father's arms crossed in a defensive posture. My mother's eyes were swollen and red from crying. "How could you do this to your own brother?" my mother questioned before I had even settled in. "Have him arrested like a common criminal?" I inhaled deeply. "Mom, Dad, I love you both, but we need to have a frank discussion about Nathan." For the next hour, I detailed the pattern of behavior I had been enabling for years, the money I had given him without their awareness, the lies I had told about the gambling debts that had piled up. They listened with growing concern as the complete story unfolded. "Why didn't you tell us?" my father inquired, suddenly looking older. "Because I was trying to protect you," I confessed. "And because I believed I could resolve it, but I was mistaken. None of us can fix this for Nathan. He must take responsibility for his actions." My mother dabbed at her eyes. "But having him arrested?" "Mom, he stole $1 million necklace. He knew its worth. He admitted that to me. This isn't merely a family issue, it's a legal one." Their resistance was evident, yet I remained resolute. After years of the family dynamic centered on shielding Nathan, I was finally advocating for a different approach. By the time I departed, there were no warm embraces or reassurances that everything would turn out all right. Instead, there was an uneasy truce and a tentative agreement to pursue family counseling. Back at the office, I confronted the task of rebuilding trust with my team and partners. I arranged one-on-one meetings with each department head, taking full accountability for the security breach while also outlining specific measures to avert future incidents. With Olivia's assistance, I initiated the Transparency in Luxury initiative, encouraging industry partners and clients to evaluate our updated security measures. Instead of shying away from the scandal, we embraced it, establishing Celestial Gems as a frontrunner in security innovation within the luxury market. The PR team formulated a meticulously crafted statement that acknowledged the incident while safeguarding private family information. I granted a single interview to Business Insider, concentrating on corporate responsibility and the distinct challenges faced by family-owned enterprises. When one of our key clients showed reluctance to continue our collaboration, I personally traveled to Paris to engage with their executive team. I provided not only reassurances but also solid data and definitive policy modifications. This trip not only salvaged the partnership but also expanded it to grant us exclusive rights to their European boutiques. In the meantime, I enlisted a private investigator to probe into Nathan's allegations regarding gambling debts. The findings were concerning. He owed money to individuals linked to organized crime. And there was evidence suggesting that someone had approached him specifically about information related to Celestial Gems security protocols. The timing indicated that Nathan's acquisition of that particular necklace was not coincidental. Equipped with this information, I met with the district attorney overseeing Nathan's case. While I would not leverage company influence to dismiss the charges, I could offer context that might facilitate a more constructive outcome. After extensive discussions, a resolution was achieved. Nathan would accept a plea deal that mandated restitution, community service, and compulsory gambling addiction treatment instead of incarceration. The final element came together when I set up the Employee Crisis Fund at Celestial Gems. Initially funded from my personal finances and later through voluntary contributions from executives, the program offered confidential emergency support to employees facing personal crises, ranging from medical emergencies to addiction issues. The message was unmistakable. We could uphold professional standards while still being there for our people during tough times. When Nathan called to inform me that he had accepted the plea deal, his voice sounded different if clearer, more present than it had been in years. "They're requiring me to attend Gamblers Anonymous meetings," he said. 3 times a week. Good. Yeah, he paused. It actually is good. I went to my first one yesterday. It's helpful to hear others talk about it, to realize I'm not alone in this. I'm glad, Nathan. There was a lengthy silence before he continued. I met with Mom's financial advisor yesterday. We're setting up a repayment plan for the bail money they provided. Small amounts each month, but I will pay it all back. It was such a straightforward statement, yet it signified a monumental change. Nathan was taking responsibility, creating a plan, and following through. The skeptical part of me questioned how long this would last, but I chose to concentrate on the progress instead of the doubts. I'm proud of you, I told him, and I truly meant it. When he laughed, it was his old laugh, not the bitter one I had heard in his apartment. Don't get too excited. I'm still working at a coffee shop and living in a rundown apartment. Not exactly the Williams family success story. Success isn't defined by your job title or where you live, Nathan. It's about living with integrity, something I believe we're both learning more about lately. After we hung up, I sat at my desk gazing out at the Manhattan skyline. The Celestial Gem stock had started to recover. The Azure collection had finally launched, albeit with a revised marketing strategy. My position as CEO remained secure. However, the most significant change wasn't reflected on any balance sheet or stock ticker. It was in the boundaries I had finally set with both my family and my company. For the first time, I wasn't trying to be everyone's savior at the cost of my own well-being. It wasn't easy, and it certainly wasn't perfect, but it was genuine, and that realization made all the difference. A year later, I found myself at the podium of the Women in Business Leadership Conference, gazing out at a crowd of engaged faces. The organizers had invited me to discuss crisis management, but I opted for a more personal perspective, the boundaries of leadership. I began by stating that when people consider leadership challenges, they often think of market fluctuations, competitive pressures, or technological changes. However, I pointed out that some of the toughest leadership moments arise from unexpected sources, specifically, the personal relationships that define us beyond our job titles. As I recounted the polished version of my journey, the security breach, the public recovery, the lessons learned, I noticed a familiar face in the audience. Nathan was seated in the back row, giving me a subtle nod of encouragement when our eyes met. Since the sapphire incident, both of our lives had changed in ways we could never have foreseen. Nathan had completed his court-ordered gambling treatment and had chosen to continue therapy on his own. He relocated to Philadelphia to start anew, securing a position at a marketing firm unrelated to the jewelry sector. Although it was an entry-level role, he was earning promotions based on merit for the first time in his life, rather than charm. Our relationship had gradually healed through carefully established boundaries. We maintained weekly phone calls, monthly visits, avoided financial entanglements, and refrained from rescuing each other. When he encountered difficulties, I listened without rushing to provide solutions. When he achieved success, I celebrated without claiming any credit. It wasn't always simple. This new dynamic demanded ongoing vigilance against old habits, but it was far healthier than anything we had experienced before. Celestial Gems not only recovered but also flourished. Our new security systems had set a benchmark in the industry, with other luxury brands adopting similar measures. The Transparency and Luxury Initiative has transformed into a consortium within the industry that emphasizes ethical practices and security standards. Our stock price has surged 23% beyond its pre-crisis level. In its inaugural year, the Employee Crisis Fund supported 17 employees facing personal emergencies, fostering a culture where individuals felt backed without the fear of professional consequences. This initiative was highlighted in Forbes as a groundbreaking strategy for workplace wellness. I concluded my speech by sharing the lessons learned at a significant personal cost. In both leadership and life, we must understand that genuine strength is not about controlling every aspect, but about setting healthy boundaries. At times, the most compassionate action we can take for others is to refrain from protecting them from the repercussions of their choices. Similarly, the most professional approach we can adopt for our organizations is to embrace our own humanity. The applause was fulfilling, yet the true reward came later when Nathan approached me with a woman I didn't recognize. "Great speech, sis," he said, giving me a brief hug. "This is Melissa, my girlfriend." Melissa greeted me with a warm smile as we shook hands. "I don't usually come to business conferences, but Nathan convinced me your talk would be worthwhile." He was right. We exchanged a few words about her role as an art therapist and their plans to visit our parents the following weekend. There was a comfort between them that I had never witnessed in Nathan's past relationships. No forced charm or anxious need to impress. He appeared at ease in his own skin, perhaps for the first time in his adult life. As they were about to leave, Nathan stopped. "Oh, I nearly forgot. I made my last restitution payment to the court last week, so I'm officially debt-free." The pride in his voice was clear. It wasn't the empty pride of someone seeking approval, but the quiet contentment of true achievement. "That's fantastic, Nathan. You accomplished that on your own." He nodded, recognizing the importance of those words. "Yes, I did." After they departed, I unexpectedly encountered someone in the hotel lobby, Vanessa Carlton. She was there for a different conference at the same venue, looking as polished and privileged as ever. "Margaret," she exclaimed, sounding surprised. "I heard you were speaking today." The initial awkwardness melted away into a surprisingly open conversation. She had launched her own foundation aimed at promoting financial literacy among young adults. After what transpired with Nathan, I realized how many individuals lack a grasp of basic financial principles, she shared. Even those from affluent backgrounds often struggle to manage money wisely. We exchanged business cards, agreeing to look into potential collaborations between her foundation and the Employee Crisis Fund. As we were about to part, she paused. "I misjudged you. You know," she remarked, "when everything happened with the necklace, I thought you were heartless for pressing charges against your own brother, but in hindsight, it might have been the most compassionate thing anyone had done for him in a long time." Her perspective was unexpected yet insightful. Sometimes, the most caring actions don't appear caring at first glance. Sometimes, they manifest as holding someone accountable. That evening in my hotel room, I found myself contemplating the remarkable journey of the past year. The sapphire necklace that had sparked so much chaos was now the highlight of our most successful collection, its worth amplified by its notorious history. The very item that had threatened to unravel both my business and my family ultimately fortified both, albeit not without significant pain along the way. I reflected on the essence of precious gems, how their value arises not only from their scarcity but also from the meticulous process of cutting away rough edges to unveil the brilliance within. Perhaps relationships function similarly. The ones that truly stand out are those that have withstood pressure, shedding unnecessary elements to reveal only the core connection. Cracks in relationships, much like those in precious gems, can either diminish their value or contribute to their distinctive character and narrative. The key difference is in our reaction to these flaws. Do we attempt to conceal them, or do we embrace them, transforming them into something new and potentially more beautiful than before? The following morning, as I was getting ready to check out, I received a message from Nathan. He simply wanted to express that he was proud of me, not just for the business achievements, but for having the courage to alter our family dynamics. It has benefited us both. Often, the most valuable possessions we have are not those we can secure in a safe or insure for millions. They are the genuine connections we build with others and the bravery to safeguard those bonds, even if it requires us to release familiar patterns. If you have ever faced the tough decision of either enabling a loved one or holding them accountable, I invite you to share your experience in the comments below. How did you muster the strength to set boundaries? What transpired afterward? Don't forget to like and subscribe if this narrative resonated with you, and share it with someone who may be facing similar struggles. Sometimes, realizing that we are not alone in these challenging journeys is the most significant gift we can receive. Thank you for listening, and remember that the most treasured gems in our lives are the relationships we nurture, even during the toughest times.